Leave a comment. I'm trying to check it. Let's see. In fact, let me just say something here. Oh yes, here we go. Look, I might as well not even do my what you call it? I'm typing out my message. Sweet, it's working today, y'all. Okay. Yay. The chat lives. Okay. It's working. Look, y'all, here's what's crazy. After I got off high immediately, started checking. My mom had called me while I was going through checking it. And so she was like, yeah, it was apparently a whole conversation was going on in the chat that I could not see. Shalom, shalom, Demi. I don't know what was wrong with it, but here is what's crazy. A few minutes after we got done with the live, while I was talking to my mom and I'm checking it, and I kind of went and I was just kind of looking at the settings and I just left it alone. And all of a sudden, boom, the chat pops in. I'm like, my mom was like, what? I said, the chat just popped in, so I don't know what all that was about yesterday. I don't know. That's weird. I ain't never heard of that, where y'all had a whole conversation going on, but I couldn't see anything. It looked like nobody had said anything over here yesterday. So, but blessed be the most holiest worker today. So, Auntie Shalom, Tiffany, Shayla, peace and blessings, great rising, the Twabu, Demi Shalom, Aliyah, peace and blessings, Mom, Shalom, Shalom. Okay. We cooking with hot grease today, y'all. Okay, so let me go ahead and that was the first order of business. Make sure that was working. Second order of business. Look, I have a correction to make, people. Look, and I already said yesterday that y'all might be right. Hold on, so let me pull it up. I did. I'm like, they was right. Okay, so yesterday, right, when we was reading the Legends of the Jews, right? So we read that little section. We were reading about Esther, and the little section, it says the weaker sex is plagued by sudden attacks of indisposition, right? Remember the banquet, the women, they held them in the halls, right? So just in case one of the women was hit with a sudden attack of indisposition, the chambers was right there where they could, just go into the room. For me, apparently it was my mind in the gutter, right? Because my uncle brought up something. He said, remember, this was a banquet where only women was attending, right? I was like, oh yeah, you bring out a great point there. But it was going on the same time when King Artaxerxes or Ahasuerus was throwing his for the men, but it was over in the king's palace. Vashti was throwing it over here in the women. So Tiffany said she thought it was they may have gotten their cycle, right? Their menstrual cycle, their monthly period, right? I was like, well, I don't know. Well, that okay. That sounds okay. That sounds like that could be it. But Shayla brought up something. She said actually a couple of people said it could have been that they had gotten drunk, right? And they need to go lay down. Okay. So I looked up indisposition. I should have did it yesterday, but I didn't look it up yesterday while we were live, right? Okay. So the definition of indisposition is a mild illness. And they have a sentence. She was chiefly confined by indisposition to her bedroom, right? The state or experience of finding something funny, which we know that was not it, based on how it was used in the sentence, right? So the full definition, it gives some other words for indisposition, right? Which makes what Tiffany and Shayla said correct, because think about some women, if they do get their cycle, sometimes it just come out of nowhere, especially if you're not tracking it, right? If you're not tracking it, boom, you hit with it. Some of them will know because they'll actually start experiencing symptoms. Some of them actually get sick, right? Some of them have bad cramps. Some of them get headaches, all those things. So other definitions for indisposition is illness, ailment, disorder, sickness, affliction, malady, infirmity, malaise, disease, infection, upset, condition, complaint, problem, trouble, ill health, bug, virus, allergy, wog, reluctance, unwillingness. I'm like, shoot. And the list just goes on and on. Disinclination, unpreparedness, slowness, hesitation, aversion, resistance, opposition, nervous about, apathy toward, dislike of, distaste for, lack of enthusiasm. And it goes on and on. I'm like, well, I guess they drive point home. So it could have been a combination of women maybe getting their period or getting sick, or like Shayla said, getting drunk. Some women can't hold their liquor, get drunk, throwing, I need to go lay down. Somebody take her in there and lay her down. Look, keep an eye on her. Don't let her come back out, right? So you guys were absolutely right on that, right? So it really had nothing to do with what I thought it did. So I'm glad y'all actually brought it out. Had me go look that up. So thank you. Thank you. Thank you for that. That was actually fun looking up. It really was, because I didn't read everything, but I'm like, shoot, they was all right, but I appreciate that, y'all. That was pretty fun to look up. So, all right. That was the second order of business. Third order of business, Levon, shalom. Prayers were answered. Blessed be the most holy, right? We had a step in the right direction. I don't think if cameras had been there, maybe it would not have turned out this way. If the world hadn't seen in the way that it did, it may have turned out a different way. But y'all best believe he's going to try to do some appeals or whatever. We already know that's coming, right? So I am unable to can with this world. I know, right? So, I mean, okay, they lock him up, right? I still don't think that's an appropriate measure. I'm with y'all. Measure for measure, right? It's different if it was like self-defense, but that was murder in broad daylight. You had no heart. Why should you get a trial, right? As long as you did, right? It should have been, this is my personal belief. He should have gotten the electric chair. That's what I believe, right? Whatever y'all believe is what y'all believe, right? But proper justice is, you take a life, your life gets taken, right? If it was murder, if you were defending yourself, then we can go a whole nother route in doing this, right? Just like Yahuwah says, if it was something that where you murdered somebody, but it was self-defense, you got to run to the city of refuge. Today, that might be jail, right? Or it could be you get off and they put you in the witness protection program or whatever. But I don't know. I mean, it was long. I don't know that it was premeditated, but it was long enough to where he could have made the decision to get up off of George's neck. He chose not to, right? But it looked like there was no life in his eyes anyway while he was doing it. It looked like he totally wasn't there, right? And that's not an excuse for anything. He definitely should be buried somewhere. That's my beliefs, right? But I was reading over some of the comments after the verdict came through. What's really, I guess it shouldn't trouble me. Of course, there were a bunch of happy people, but what I wasn't even shocked by it, but I'm reading the comments like eyes wide and mouth open at some of the comments where people are pissed that he got locked up, right? I'm just like, what can you say about that? I'm like, these are definitely the people, the descendants of those who hate Yahuwah's people, right? I'm just like, how could a decent human being, like with any kind of heart, make these type of comments? I had to cut it off. That's why I didn't watch it, because it really shows the heart. I'm not gonna say of all America, but still a lot of the little people living in America and all over the world, because them comments was coming in from everywhere, right? And I was looking at Fox News, and I can only imagine if what I saw there, I'm sure they had bits of that on other channels too. But okay, that's enough for today. But it's a step in the right direction, right? A little bit of justice, but we'll see if it holds. We don't know, That's not my call, but we'll see. But at least they somewhat appeased people by putting him behind bars. That personally, I think that's too nice of a punishment for him. And that's just one. It's a step in the right direction. Let's see what we're doing about all these other ones that's just getting off and getting free. But anyway, that's enough of that today, y'all. It is Wednesday. Happy Wednesday, everybody. It is April the 21st, 2021, day 133 of year 3 of reading through the books of the law and the prophets, and of the 3-year consecutive day count, day 802. Today we are reading 2 Kings 6, 7, and 8. Oh, yesterday too, y'all, I did drop in the comment section the scripture. It was, I put in here Zechariah 8 and 11. And I didn't come back and correct this, but it's in wait, hold on. Let me just look it up. No, let me go to my video from yesterday real quick. I put it in the where it was found, where it says that our captors would judge themselves not guilty. I believe. Did I fix that? Hold on. I think it's Zechariah 5 and 11. Hold on. Let me, because I didn't say that. Hold on. Let me just pull it up for y'all real quick. But I put it in there. Because I should have fixed it here. It's just going to bug me. So I'm just about to pull it up real quick. Okay. But I definitely got the book right. It was Zechariah. Let's see. Yesterday's video. What's my last comment? Okay. It was... This is crazy. What am I commenting on? Okay. Yeah. It's in the... Hold on. Sheesh. I think it'll be easy to find. Okay. Okay. Here you go. I'm sorry. I had a little backwards. It was Zechariah 11 and 5. Remember, you go read it in context, right? But this is talking about, it's a compilation. This chapter is a compilation of Yahuwah telling us that a nation was going to come take us captive, and how they would be acting towards us, right? And what was going to happen to us when it was happening. And right in here, verse 5 of chapter 11 of Zechariah says, who possessors slay them and hold themselves not guilty. And they that sell them say, blessed be the Lord, for I am rich, and their own shepherds pity them not, right? So he was saying because his people weren't listening, they're doing all manner of everything, that this people that was going to come take us, they were going to say that they were blessed, and Yahuwah allowed it, right? Then clearly they say it. We watch some stuff. They talk about it, how Yahuwah gave us up to them, right? We're their blessing because we get to come do, not we get to, but are a blessing to them from Yah. And they can do whatever they want because we're their property and all this other stuff. The possessors, our possessors, who possessors slay them and hold themselves not guilty. And they that sell them say, blessed be the Lord, for I am rich, and their own shepherds pity them not, right? Even those among us that were shepherds over us, they did not pity us. Some of them even, family feuds turn against one another, turning each other in, all that kind of stuff. We can clearly see that stuff still today, right? In the midst of our people. Okay, so let's go ahead and start with the reading in 2 Kings chapter 6. Okay, I gotta fix my page back while I'm looking this up. I was looking it up. Okay. Here we go. And shalom, shalom. Okay, the floating axe head, 2 Kings chapter 6. Okay. One day, the group of prophets came to Elisha and told him, "As you can see, this place where we meet with you is too small. Let's go down to the Jordan River where there are plenty of logs." And Jehoshaphat replied, "Why, of course. You and I are as one. My troops are your troops, and my horses your horses." Then Jehoshaphat asked, "What route will we take?" Oh, y'all, the video from yesterday started playing. I'm sorry. Okay. All right, y'all. One day, the group of prophets came to Elisha and told him, "As you can see, this place where we meet is too small. Let's go down to the Jordan River where there are plenty of logs. There we can build a new place for us to meet." "All right, then," he told them. "Go ahead. Please come with us," someone suggested. "I will," he said, so he went with them. When they arrived at the Jordan, they began cutting down trees, but as one of them was cutting a tree, his axe head fell into the river. "Oh, sir," he cried, "it was a borrowed axe." "Where did it fall?" the man of Yah asked. When he showed him the place, Elisha cut a stick and threw it into the water at that spot. Then the axe head floated to the surface. "Grab it," Elisha said, and the man reached out and grabbed it. That was a miracle right there. Elisha traps the Arameans. When the king of Aram was at war with Israel, he would confer with his officers and say, "We will mobilize our forces at such and such a place." But immediately Elisha, the man of Yah, would warn the king of Israel, "Do not go near that place, for the Arameans are planning to mobilize their troops there." So the king of Israel would send word to the place indicated by the man of Yah. Time and again, Elisha warned the king so that he would be on alert there. The king of Aram became very upset over this. He called his officers together and demanded, "Which of you is the traitor? Who has been informing the king of Israel of my plans?" "It is not us, my lord the king," one of the officers replied. "Elisha the prophet in Israel tells the king of Israel even the words you speak in the privacy of your bedroom." "Go and find out where he is," the king commanded, "so I can send troops to seize him." And the report came back, "Elisha is at Dothan." So one night, the king of Aram sent a great army with many chariots and horses to surround the city. When the servant of the man of Yah got up early the next morning and went outside, there were troops, horses, and chariots everywhere. "Oh, sir, what will we do now?" the young man cried to Elisha. "Don't be afraid," Elisha told him, "for there are more on our side than on theirs." Then Elisha prayed, "Oh, Lord, open his eyes and let him see." Yahuwah opened the young man's eyes, and when he looked up, he saw the hillside around Elisha was filled with horses and chariots of fire. As the Aramean army advanced toward him, Elisha prayed, "Oh Lord, please make them blind." So Yahuwah struck them with blindness as Elijah had asked. Then Elisha went out and told them, "You have come the wrong way. This isn't the right city. Follow me, and I will take you to the man you are looking for." And he led them to the city of Samaria. As soon as they entered Samaria, Elisha prayed, "Oh Lord, now open their eyes and let them see." So Yahuwah opened their eyes, and they discovered that they were in the middle of Samaria. When the king of Israel saw them, he shouted to Elisha, "My father, should I kill them? Should I kill them?" "Of course not," Elisha replied. "Do we kill prisoners of war? Give them food and drink and send them home again to their master." So the king made a great feast for them and sent them home to their master. After that, the Aramean raiders strayed away from the land of Israel. Sometime later, however, King Ben-Hadad of Aram mustered his entire army and besieged Samaria. As a result, there was a great famine in the city. The siege lasted so long that a donkey's head sold for 80 pieces of silver, and a cup of dove's dung sold for 5 pieces of silver. One day, as the king of Israel was walking along the wall of the city, a woman called to him, "Please help me, my lord the king." He answered, "If Yahuwah doesn't help you, what can I do? I have neither food from the threshing floor nor wine from the press to give you." But the king asked, "What is the matter?" She replied, "This woman said to me, 'Come on, let's eat your son today. Today we will eat." I'm sorry. Come on, let's eat your son today. Then we will eat my son tomorrow. So we cooked my son and ate him. Then the next day I said to her, kill your son so we can eat him. But she has hidden her son. When the king heard this, he tore his clothes in despair. And as the king walked along the wall, the people could see that he was wearing burlap under his robe next to his skin. May Yahuwah strike me and even kill me if I don't separate Elisha's head from his shoulders this very day, the king vowed. Elisha was sitting in his house with the elders of Israel when the king sent a messenger to summon him. But before the messenger arrived, Elisha said to the elders, a murderer has sent a man to cut off my head. When he arrives, shut the door and keep him out. We will soon hear his master's steps following him. While Elisha was still saying this, the messenger arrived, and the king said, all this misery is from Yahuwah. Why should I wait for Yahuwah any longer? So it looked like Elisha had a little bit more, I ain't gonna say he had a little bit more strength to stand than Elijah did, right? But he didn't run when he knew that the king was coming for his head, right? So whereas Elisha took off running to Yah, to Sinai, right? Because Jezebel was after him. She had threatened his life. 2 Kings chapter 7. Elisha. Pause. I'm glad I looked down. You right. Doing all my updates, y'all. I'm sorry. You right. I didn't do the shimmer. I'm glad I looked down. Forgive me, y'all. See, I'm gonna have to do all the stuff the normal course before I start making comments from previous days stuff and current events, right? I'm sorry. Let's pause. Let's go to the shema. Thank you, Mom, Auntie. We all missed it. Yeah, I'm sorry. Forgive me. The shema. Forgive me. Deuteronomy chapter 6. Hear, therefore, O Israel, and observe to do it, that it may be well with you, and that you may increase mightily, as Yahuwah, the God of our fathers, has promised us, in the land that flows with milk and honey. Hear, O Israel, Yahuwah, our God, he is one God, and you shall love Yahuwah, your God, with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your might. And these words which I command you this day shall be in your heart, and you shall teach them diligently unto your children. And you shall talk of them when you sit in your house, and when you walk by the way, when you lie down, and when you rise up. And you shall bind them for a sign upon your hand, and they shall be as frontlets between your eyes. And you shall write them upon the posts of your house and on your gates. And Yahuwah commanded us to do all these statutes, to fear Yahuwah our God for our good always, that he might preserve us alive as it is at this day. And it shall be our righteousness, if we observe to do all these commandments before Yahuwah our God, as he has commanded us. Oh, you didn't, Trina. It was my fault. Yeah, I noticed that I've done that a couple times. If I start making comments before I give the day and the date and the beginning stuff, I'll tend to forget it. Sorry, y'all. So I make myself a note. Don't start commenting till we do the opening and say the date and the shema first. Okay. All right, y'all. Let's go back. 2 Kings chapter 7. I just started over because I was only on about to start verse 3. Okay. Elisha replied, listen to this message from Yahuwah. This is what Yahuwah says. By this time tomorrow, in the markets of Samaria, 6 quarts of choice flour will cost only 1 piece of silver, and 12 quarts of barley grain will cost only 1 piece of silver. That's a time marker, right? He said, by this time tomorrow. Let me read it again. Elisha replied, listen to this message from Yahuwah. This is what Yahuwah says. By this time tomorrow, in the markets of Samaria, 6 quarts of choice flour will cost only 1 piece of silver, and 12 quarts of barley grain will cost only 1 piece of silver. The officer assisting the king said to the man of Yah, that couldn't happen even if Yahuwah opened the windows of heaven, right? Oh, you want to take him to the challenge. But Elisha replied, you will see it will happen with your own eyes, but you won't be able to eat any of it. Now let's see what happened. that caused this to happen. That what they're really saying is that food is going to be in abundance, so much in abundance that you're going to be able to get all of this for one silver coin. He said that couldn't happen even if Yahuwah opened the windows of heaven. He said, oh, but on the contrary, you will see it, but you will not be able to eat any of it, right? Okay, so let's see what happened by the time tomorrow this time got here, right? Now there were 4 men with leprosy sitting at the entrance of the city gates. Why should we sit here waiting to die? They asked each other. We will starve if we stay here, but with the famine in the city, we will starve if we go back there. So we might as well go out and surrender to the Aramean army. If they let us live, so much the better. But if they kill us, we will have died anyway. So at twilight, they set out for the camp of the Arameans. But when they came to the edge of the camp, no one was there. For Yahuwah had caused the Aramean army to hear the clatter of speeding chariots and the galloping of horses and the sounds of a great army approaching. The king of Israel has hired the Hittites and the Egyptians to attack us, they cried to one another. So they panicked and ran into the night, abandoning their tents, horses, donkeys, and everything else as they fled for their lives. When the men with leprosy arrived at the edge of the camp, they went into one tent after another, eating and drinking wine, and they carried off silver and gold and clothing and hid it. Finally, they said to each other, that is not right. This is a day of good news, and we aren't sharing it with anyone. If we wait until morning, some calamity will certainly fall upon us. Come on, let's go back and tell the people at the palace. So they went back to the city and told the gatekeepers what had happened. We went out to the Aramean camp, they said, and no one was there. The horses and the donkeys were tethered and the tents were all in order, but there wasn't a single person around. Then the gatekeeper shouted the news to the people in the palace. The king got out of the bed in the middle of the night and told his officers, I know what has happened. The Arameans know we are starving, so they left their camp and have hidden in the fields. They are expecting us to leave the city, and then they will take us alive and capture the city. One of his officers replied, we had better send out scouts to check into this. Let them take 5 of the remaining horses. If something happens to them, it will be no worse than if they stayed here and died with the rest of us. So 2 chariots with horses were prepared, and the king sent scouts to see what had happened to the Aramean army. They went all the way to the Jordan River, following a trail of clothing and equipment that the Arameans had thrown away in their mad rush to escape. The scouts returned and told the king about it. Then the people of Samaria rushed out and plundered the Aramean camp. So it was true that 6 quarts of choice flour were sold that day for 1 piece of silver, and 12 quarts of barley grain were sold for 1 piece of silver, just as Yahuwah had promised. The king appointed his officer to control the traffic at the gate, but he was knocked down and trampled to death as the people rushed out. So everything happened exactly as the man of Yahuwah had predicted when the king came to his house. The man of Yahuwah said to the king, by this time tomorrow, in the markets of Samaria, 6 quarts of choice flour will cost 1 piece of silver, and 12 quarts of barley grain will cost 1 piece of silver. The king's officer had replied, that couldn't happen even if Yahuwah opened the windows of heaven. And the man of Yah said, you will see it happen with your own eyes, but you will not be able to eat any of it. And so it was, for the people trampled him to death at the gate. These are the type of miracles we are looking to see Yahuwah beginning to perform, right? And see him perform just like that, right? If we listen to Yah, he will give us precise, pinpoint, exact information, right? And you can always take it to the bank and cash it on the day he tell you you can cash it on, right? What's the next step? Last chapter for today. 2 Kings chapter 8. The woman from Shunem returns home. Elisha had told the woman whose son he had brought back to life, Take your family and move to some other place, for Yahuwah has called for a famine on Israel that will last for 7 years. So the woman did as the man of Yah instructed. She took her family and settled in the land of the Philistines for 7 years. After the famine ended, she returned from the land of the Philistines, and she went to see the king about getting back her house and land. As she came in, the king was talking with Gehazi, the servant of the man of Yah. The king had just said, "Tell me some stories about the great things Elisha has done." And Gehazi was telling the king about the time Elisha had brought a boy back to life. At that very moment, the mother of the boy walked in to make her appeal to the king about her house and land. "Look, my lord the king," Gehazi exclaimed, "here is the woman now, and this is her son, the very one Elisha brought back to life." "Is this true?" the king asked her, and she told him the story. So he directed one of his officials to see that everything she had lost was restored to her, including the value of any crops that had been harvested during her absence. Oh, listen here, y'all. Look, so y'all probably done seen it already. It's been out for a couple days, right? So remember how at the beginning, I want to say at the beginning of the year, probably about the beginning of the year, right, when we reached into 2020, and I said, here's the things I'm looking to see happen with Yahuwah's people, right? I said, I'm looking to see so you have to remember, if we go back to the first Exodus, right, you have to remember what started happening. And you can I ain't gonna say you can see it happening now, right? So remember that, let me just give you some of the story. Moses came, Yah sent Moses in, tell Pharaoh, let my son go, my people, Israel. Yahuwah refers to Israel, us as his son in singular form, but he's always talking about the whole of us, right? The nation without number, right? More than the sand on the seashore. That's us, my son in singular, but he's always talking about us plural, right? Okay, so he said, go tell him, let my people go, right? So, the rigmarole that ensued after that, have them make bricks, and we're not giving them anything to make bricks, right? It started getting a little bit harder, right? But as the plagues progressed, it got easier for Israel, and they began accumulating wealth, right? Even when it got up to it's just after, I believe it was after the third plague, right? Yahuwah brought in a separation. So at the time of the separation, where Yahuwah distinguished that these are my people and this is everybody else, and all those ones who have been lording over my people, taking advantage of them, using and abusing them. Isaiah, can you go tell Jeremiah to go take the trash out, please? They're going to truck. Hurry up. Because they may have did it last night, but hurry up. Go tell them. Oh, I hope they catch it. So, but at the separation, it started getting a little bit easier for Jacob, the sons and daughters of Jacob, who were in Goshen, right? So while all the other plagues was going on, while their stuff was being tore up and attacked, there was peace in Goshen. There was light in Goshen. No livestock died from Goshen, right? Everything in Goshen was taken care of. So they was kind of at peace. They were coming up, and if we read in the Legends of the Jews and through the book of Jasher, it gives us more detail about what happened, right? Now, we do know that Yahuwah dealt with some of Israel, right? A lot of the rebellious ones who got caught away or who got caught up in the destruction of Egypt, right? So we see some of our people even today being caught up in the destruction, being places they should not be. And they just kind of losing their lives early, right? Which lines up with what Yahuwah said. Even this time, he said, I'm going to deal with my people face to face in the wilderness. I'm going to deal with the rebel among you, right? So right now, we are scattered to the four corners of the earth, but we're mixed in with the people of all the nations, right? So within the wilderness of the people. And if you read in another, I forget which translation it is, where it says, in the wilderness of the people, it talks about being the people. It's like the wilderness of the nations, right? So being scattered within the nations. So I was like, okay, well, now that makes sense. Now that I read over this translation where one says, He's going to deal with the rebels among them in the wilderness of the people, or in the wilderness of the nations. So the nations where we're scattered, he's going to deal with us there, right? And when we return to our land, that there is not going to be one rebel among us. It ain't going to be not one fool among us, right? Because he's going to be had and dealt with us, right? So he's dealing with all us now while we're scattered, right? So you can fall in line, you clean yourself up, return to the most holy, and you'll be okay. Otherwise, you might be swept away with the discipline that's coming to the nations who's held us captive, right? It's your choice. It's your choice, my G. Look, choose wisely. You're going to say choose life, right? So choose life. Choose to live. Choose to live, right? So what happened was, if you look at what's going on now, some people are like, oh, it's just life is the way it's going. Okay. Stay alive a little bit longer and keep watching, right? What happens is you'll begin to see Israel, you're beginning to see our plight. In some places, it'll look like it's getting worse, right? Because it's about time for freedom, and they ain't really trying to let loose nobody or give them anything. And in other places where the people are kind of like on board, like, yeah, we gotta stop treating these people like this. Go ahead. And now you see these little things at this time, at the end of the 400 years, mind you, y'all could have did this any other time, right? So I brought this up. When it said this about here, it says, is this true? The king asked her, and she told him the story. So he directed one of his officials to see that everything she had lost was restored to her, including the value of any crops that had been harvested during her absence, right? When I said that, I immediately remember the story that came out. Remember, and I believe it was over in California. There was land that was stripped away. Jeremiah, these pizza boxes are empty. Take them too, please. The land that had been stripped away from this family, it was just now returned. I want to say last week, maybe week before last, there was a big story on it. I'll share it just in case y'all haven't seen it. Land returned, and it had been stripped away from this family during the high time slavery days, right? And it had increased in that Manhattan Beach. Thank you, Dana. Manhattan Beach. It had been taken away, but after it was stripped away from this family, it was returned with all the value. It had increased. It would be complete end of this year. Have to pass the bill. But yeah, it's pretty much, I ain't gonna say it's done, but it's pretty much done. But anyway, it was on the news. Like I said, I'll share the clip just in case you didn't see it. Hey, Aliyah. Shalom. I ain't seen you in a while, sis. I know you was taking a break. I just remember that you said you were going to take a break. But it's being returned, all that value. Look, and the people that they took it, they gave them. Thank you, David. I can always count on David to come through with some facts for me. Listen, right? So they gave them 1,224. Hold on. They gave them. Hold on. Gave them $1,224 worth $75 million. You talking about when they took it? I'm gonna pull it up. It's worth $75 million today, right? And they're going to put it back into the hands of the descendants of the people that they stole. Yeah, who they stole it from. Gave them $1,224. It is worth $75 million today, right? And they showed a picture of the family. They was gathered on the land. I'm like, blessed be the most holy, right? So you can start seeing things being returned to people, right? Land, monetary funds and stuff. And not just that, but I also believe it's going to be like, you just got to think about everything that's happened to our people. I believe there's going to be restitution in a lot of those areas. Now, some things that need to be healed emotionally and like mentally and spiritually, Yahuwah is going to have to do that direct work. But I believe all the resources, the tangible physical resources that our people are going to need they need to do that in Hilton Head, South Carolina. Everything that we're going to need to bring about that complete healing and restoration, all those things are becoming available to us, right? You know, I even in my husband's family, not too long ago, they have some land on his mom's side, right? And it's just and we were heated about it, but it's like, what can we do? They took that land from them, right? I'm just like, And I believe, let's see, one. I believe on his mom's side, as far as we know, there's really nobody. Well, we're there, we're here, but I believe older than her, as far as we know, there is no one still living, right? So it was like we kind of running a dead end, and it's like we only have so much information. It's like, Father, how do we fight this? And they've already taken this land, right? So it's all of those things, even up to the day, right? Just by letter of the law and things that we don't quite understand, they can just kind of take things from you. They change laws and just all this stuff. I'm getting heated already again about this, y'all. Okay, so but anyway, I brought all that up with this right here, where I said at the beginning of the year, I'm looking to see things start being returned. I'm starting to see we're gonna look and we can see Yahuwah's people start coming up, right? And things that we didn't normally have access to back in the day, all of those things are gonna start being made available to us, right? Thank you, Tracy. Hilton Head, Low County. Yep. So all of those things, if y'all pay attention and if y'all understand what's going on, you can start seeing it happen little by little all over the place, right? So I think it's gonna be a progression, and it's gonna just pick up steam, right? It seemed like it's moving a little slow, but if you're watching, you can see it happening here. You can see it happening here. You can see it happening here, right? And you can see who will begin to deal with those who have mistreated us and misappropriated different things little by little until it's going to really pick up steam, at least from what I understand as of today and from history and how Yahuwah has moved. I can see that start. I can see that happening, right? I started seeing it happening literally almost at the end of the 400 year, not 2019, but in 2020, right? And you're going to start seeing it increase, right? So be watching, pay attention, y'all, right? And prepare yourself. Be watching, because things, if you're watching, if you're prepared, you're better able to make sure you're in a position to make sure some of these things come to you, right? Like, even with business ideas, ask you okay, what have you put in my hands to do? Help prepare us. I ain't saying, go quit your job or anything, but prepare. I shared something by Pastor Tebow that him and his wife did while they were driving in the car. They were talking about reparations, right? We don't know how long it's going to be when that happens or whatever, but we know it's going to happen, right? And I think it's going to happen in more ways than what we really looking at now, right? But it's going to happen. We know it's happening. Prepare your stuff. Start cleaning your house up. Start cleaning your credit up. Make sure you're prepared. Take some classes. Be able to handle what's coming to you. Yes, Black farmlands. Yes. Thank you, Dana. She said Black farmland need to watch this closely. Free money to obtain land. I'm telling you, look, I did a little bit of research into the land into the Black farmers in the recent year, and here is what really bothered me, right? And it pissed me off on a whole nother level. Excuse my language if y'all think that's too strong. It really gets my blood boiling. It's like, okay, Father, we need wisdom. What the government has done, because me and my husband, we went, sometimes we just take rides on the countryside just looking at land and stuff, because we know we're going to have land. We want to build our house and stuff, but we're looking at land where we can acquire. So as we were traveling and just kind of rolling through North Carolina and some of the rural places here in Virginia and just looking, I'm like, what is all of this was farmland, right? And what I found out, and I started pulling up some information about farmers and stuff. And the government has created subsidies, right? So say you have a farm, right? But maybe your farm is not doing too well. Maybe it hasn't done too well in the previous years, right? The government has created subsidies and give you money not to farm, right? It's like, and it's really tempting to a lot of farmers. And apparently a lot of farmers have taken it because they weren't turning a profit anyway. So it's like, well, we might as well go ahead and get paid not to farm, because we weren't making any money when we were farming, right? And then you had a whole COVID thing happen. Then they doing all this, you can't send that because it could be infected with COVID. So you got all this food rotting and stuff, so all of these things, but people not paying attention. What is this going to mean in the bigger scope of things. Y'all giving us money, y'all giving us handouts. We have to depend on you. We're letting go of everything we know to do, to work with our hands, to be able to take care of our family and supply for our community. You're taking away everything, causing us to become dependent upon you. Forgive us for any of us who have ever done that, right? If you ever get in that position, or if you're in that position now, you need to cry out to Yah, help me take my power back. We don't need to be dependent on this government for anything, because when they're calling the shots for everything, it's going to be you and your family standing there in a line waiting for a handout, right? And who knows if they're even going to get to the part of the line where you guys are standing waiting, right? You literally are leaving your life in their hands to do whatever they will. Do not do that. Do not do that. Do what you know to do. If you don't know how to do it, you better learn how to do it. You better find somebody that know how to do it and learn how to supply for your own self. Trust in Yah and let him bless the work of your hands, right? Because you'll also see, they want them to be dependent on them, and we will not. It is another form of welfare, right? And we will not do that, right? If we have the time now, we have our health and our strength where we can learn something and they ain't really too bad right now, we can get out there and we can do something. That's why a lot of us have started gardening, learning how to grow our own food and stuff, because even during COVID, farmers and people with different types of farmers where they produce different things, a lot of them went out of business. A lot of them went under, but some of them had some good common sense, right? They had some good common sense. I was like, ooh, I pray everybody's watching. There was this one farmer guy, he had a dairy farm, right? And he had contracts set up, with transportation and everything to get his product to market, all of these things. When COVID happened, all of this stuff kind of shut down. And he was trying to find out, well, what do I do with all that? They said, well, pour it out, right? He said, pour it out. What he did, he got smart. He went back to what he began to do when he first started his business. When him and his wife, his family, his little family, they first started, they were doing everything. So although they kind of lost some stuff, they went back to doing what they first did, where they were doing everything themselves. And they went out to their surrounding community. He said, we may not be able to push it out to the world anymore. He said, but we can still at least help our community. They even had it on the news, my G. The community found out what he was doing when they couldn't get it anywhere else. It was like he became a millionaire overnight, when he could have went out of business had he listened to the government. Just pour everything out, right? And y'all got it. That's why millionaires and billionaires and multi-billionaires and trillionaires are made during times of recession, because creativity kicks in, right? Sometimes we need that. We need a swift kick in the butt. We need some things taken away for the creativity to kick in, right? And his creativity kicked in, and he literally became a millionaire overnight, where not just his surrounding community, even the community surrounding his community found out there was a here locally, and he has everything we need. You should have seen, they had a helicopter line for miles, people lined up at his dairy farm. I'm like, look at this. Look at this. I said, Father, bless this man. He was thinking, right? He didn't get scared, and he went back to the first things they knew to do. And they just kind of went out, hey, look, we got this here. Let anybody that know that need it, we got it here. We got a lot of it, so come on. And word spread like wildfire, right? Ain't nothing better than word of mouth marketing. Then now we got social media. When it spread, people, look, come down here, we got it here. Social media just blew it up. Family secured through the recession, right? And may you will bless us all, right? So I brought all that up, talking about the woman who Elisha raised her son. When she came back, he said, see that everything is restored to her, even all the increase on the land that it produced while it was not in her possession. Make sure she gets all of that too, right? Is this true? The king asked her, and she told him the story. So he directed one of his officials to see that everything she had lost was restored to her, including the value of any crops that had been harvested during her absence, right? And so we see that Yahuwah is going to do that for his people. Everything is going to be restored to us. Yahuwah said, the nations are going to bring their wealth unto you, right? Even when we go back to our land, they will still be coming in droves to bless Yahuwah's people. Everything that we have need of, everything that was lost, it is going to be given to us. Even everything that has accrued value in our absence while other tenants have been holding it, right? All of that is going to be returned to Yahuwah's people. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and keep reading this chapter, y'all. Verse 7. Elisha went to Damascus, the capital of Aram, where King Ben-Hadad lay sick. When someone told the king that the man of Yahuwah had come, the king said to Hazael, take a gift to the man of Yah, then tell him to ask Yahuwah, will I recover from this illness? So Hazael loaded down 40 camels with the finest products of Damascus as a gift for Elisha. He went to him and said, your servant Ben-Hadad, the king of Aram, has sent me to ask, will I recover from this illness? And Elisha replied, go and tell him, you will surely recover, but actually Yahuwah has shown me that he will surely die. Elijah stared at Hazael with a fixed gaze until Hazael became uneasy. Then the man of Yah started weeping. What's the matter, my lord? Hazael asked him. Elisha replied, I know the terrible things you will do to the people of Israel. You will burn their fortified cities, kill their young men with the sword, dash their little children to the ground, and rip open their pregnant women. Right? That was still happening to our people for multiple generations. Every time we got taken into captivity, all these things, right? Still, that's how you can notice us throughout the generations. That's us. Hazael responded, how could a nobody like me ever accomplish such great things? Elisha answered, Yahuwah has shown me that you are going to be the king of Aram. When Hazael left Elisha and went back, the king asked him, what did Elisha tell you? Hazael replied, he told me that you will surely recover. But the next day, Hazael took a blanket, soaked it in water, and held it over the king's face until he died. Then Hazael became the next king of Aram. Jehoram, son of King Jehoshaphat of Judah, began to rule over Judah in the 5th year of the reign of Joram, son of Ahab, king of Israel. Jehoram was 32 years old when he became king, and he reigned in Jerusalem 8 years. But Jehoram followed the example of the kings of Israel and was as wicked as King Ahab, for he had married one of Ahab's daughters. So Jehoram did what was evil in Yahuwah's sight. But Yahuwah did not want to destroy Judah, for he had promised his servant David that his descendants would continue to rule, shining like a lamp forever. During Jehoram's reign, the Edomites revolted against Judah and crowned their own king. So Jehoram went with all his chariots to attack the town of Zaire. The Edomites surrounded him and his chariot commanders, but he went out at night and attacked them under cover of darkness. But Jehoram's armies deserted him and fled to their homes. So Edom has been independent from Judah to this day. The town of Libnah also revolted about the same town. The rest of the events in Jehoram's reign and everything he did are recorded in the book of the history of the kings of Judah. When Jehoram died, he was buried with his ancestors in the city of David. Then his son Ahaziah became the next king. Ahaziah, the son of Jehoram, began to rule over Judah in the 12th year of the reign of Jehoram, son of Ahab, king of Israel. Ahaziah was 22 years old when he became king, and he reigned in Jerusalem 1 year. His mother, Athaliah, was the granddaughter of King Omri of Israel. Ahaziah followed the evil example of King Ahab's family. He did what was evil in Yahuwah's sight, just as Ahab's family had done, for he was related by marriage to the family of Ahab. Ahaziah joined Jehoram, son of Ahab, in his war against King Hazael of Aram at Ramoth Gilead. When the Arameans wounded King Joram in the battle, he returned to Jezreel to recover from the wounds he had received at Ramoth. Because Joram was wounded, King Ahaziah of Judah went to Jezreel to visit him. Okay, y'all, that was the last chapter for today. That was 2 Kings 6, 7, and 8. So we're going to hop over here to the Legends of the Jews, starting on page 493 where we left off yesterday. Plug that in. Amen, Fariyah. Did I say that right? Fariyah. Hope I pronounced your name right. He said, this is why it's good to continue to pray for one another globally. The Most High Yah said, love your neighbor as you love yourself. Genesis 15:14. Thank you. We shall come out with great substance. All praise and honor and glory to Yah. Amen. Okay, y'all. Page 493. Mordecai. That's Bible, Christy Hager. Hey. All right. The descent of Mordecai and of his niece Esther is disposed of in a few words in the scripture, but he could trace it all the way back to the patriarch Jacob, for whom he was 45 degrees removed. Besides the father of Mordecai, the only ancestor of his who is mentioned by name is Shimei, and he is mentioned for a specific reason. Okay, we're good. This Shimei is none other than the notorious son of Gera, the rebel who had so scoffed and mocked at David fleeing before Absalom that he would have been killed by Abishai if David had not generously interfered in his favor. David's prophetic eye discerned in Shimei the ancestor of Israel's savior in the time of Ahasuerus. For this reason, he dealt leniently with him, and knowing his deathbed, he bade his son Solomon reserve vengeance until Shimei.
I wake up first.
Yes.
I wake up first.
For this reason, he dealt leniently with him, and on his deathbed, he bade his son Solomon reserve vengeance until Shimei. Hey, chill, y'all. Reserve vengeance until Shimei should have reached old age and could beget no more children. Thus, Mordecai deserves both appellations, the Benjamite and Judean, for he owed his existence not only to his actual Benjamite forebears on his father's side, but also to the Judean David, who kept his ancestor Shimei alive. Shimei's distinction as the ancestor of Israel's Redeemer was due to the merits of his wife. When Jonathan and Ahimaaz, David's spies in war against his son, fled before the myriads of Absalom, they found the gate of Shimei's house open. Entering, they concealed themselves in the well. That they escaped detection was due to the rules of Shimei's pious wife. She quickly transformed the well into a lady's chamber. When Absalom's men came and looked about, they desisted from searching the place because they reasoned that men as saintly as Jonathan and Ahimaaz would not have taken refuge in the private apartment of a woman. Yahuwah determined that for having rescued the two pious men, he would reward her with two pious descendants who should in turn avert the ruin of Israel. On his mother's side, Mordecai, in very deed, a member of the tribe of Judah. In any event, he was the son of Judah in the true sense of the word. He publicly acknowledged himself as a Hebrew, and he refused to touch the forbidden food which Ahasuerus set before his guests at his banquet. Remember, Ahasuerus is also Artaxerxes, right? The same person, two names interchangeable. His other appellatives likewise point to his piety and his excellencies. His name Mordecai, for instance, consists of Mor, meaning myrrh, and Decai, pure, for he was as refined and noble as pure myrrh. Again, he is called Ben Jair because he illuminated the eyes of Israel, and Ben Kish because when he knocked at the gates of divine mercy, they were opened unto him, which is likewise the origin of his name, Ben Shimei. Or remember, Ben is son of, right? Son of Shimei. For he was heard by Yahuwah when he offered up prayer. Still another of Mordecai's epithets, epithets, E-P-I-T-H-E-T-S. Epithets, okay. Still another of Mordecai's epithets was Bilshan, master of languages. Being a member of the great Sanhedrin, he understood all the 70 languages spoken in the world. More than that, he knew the language of the deaf mutes. It once happened that no new grain could be obtained at Passover time. A deaf mute came and pointed with one hand to the roof and with the other to the cottage. Mordecai understood that these signs meant a locality by the name of Gagot Zeraphim, cottage roofs, and lo, new grain was found there for the Omer offering. On another occasion, a deaf mute pointed with one hand to his eye and with the other to the staple of the bolt on the door. Mordecai understood that he meant a place called En Soker, dry well, for I and spring are the same word. In Aramaic, and Sikra also has a double meaning, staple and exhaustion. That was good, because I would have never figured that out. He pointed to his eye and a bolt, right? See, that's the beauty of knowing original languages, right? Because the English language is a bastard. It's a bastard language, and it's everything mixed up in together. Like, and you have it's crazy. But if you look at Hebrew and even like original Paleo Hebrew, when some of the things it blows your mind when you understand the scriptures from the original language. You get so much more understanding out of it than if you would just read it with your westernized mindset, right? Because it wasn't written that way. So a lot of interpretations that we get is not what that we get in the English, coming from an English mindset. It's not that at all. So that's why it's really good to understand, right, the original language, Hebrew language, at least when dealing with the scriptures. Okay. Mordecai belonged to the highest aristocracy of Jerusalem. He was of royal blood, and he was deported to Babylon. He was purported. I'm sorry. Hold on. Mordecai belonged to the highest aristocracy of Jerusalem. He was of royal blood, and he was deported to Babylonia together with King Jeconiah by Nebuchadnezzar, who at that time exiled only the great of the land.
Squishing on my feet.
Hold on, Pootie. Later, he returned to Palestine, but remained only for a time. He preferred to live in the diaspora.
Mommy,
and
it's squishing on my feet.
Okay, you need to watch where you walking. What did you step on? He preferred.
Snail?
No snail in here. What are you talking about?
It's not on my feet.
Oh, you need to check your foot, sis. And how did the snail get in here if it truly was a snail? And I don't think you stepped on a snail, because you would be freaking out right now. He preferred to live in a diaspora and watch over the education of Esther. When Cyrus and Darius captured Babylon, Mordecai, Daniel, and the Hebrew community of the conquered city accompanied King Cyrus to Shushan, where Mordecai established his academy. Girl. Sorry, Facebook. Look. Oh. There you go.
Let me share with my boys.
Yes, you can go share it with your boys.
Josh is sleeping.
Is Josh asleep? Okay. She called her brothers her boys. Let's go share it with my boys. Okay, y'all. Next chapter, Esther's beauty and piety. Oh, shoot. We had okay, I'm going to read this section. We're going to be done. We already at an hour and 2 minutes. Okay. Esther's beauty and piety. The birth of Esther caused the death of her mother. Her father had died a little while before. She was entirely orphaned. When Mordecai and his wife interested themselves in the poor babe. Mordecai and his wife interested themselves in the poor babe. His wife became her nurse, and he himself did not hesitate, when there was need for it, to do services for the child that are usually performed by only women. Both her names, Esther as well as Hadassah, are descriptive of her virtues. Hadassah, or Myrtle, she is called, because her good deeds spread her fame abroad, as the sweet fragrance of myrtle pervades the air in which it grows. In general, the myrtle is symbolic of the pious, because as the myrtle is evergreen, summer and winter are alike, so the saints never suffer dishonor, either in this world or in the world to come. Excuse me, water. In a hold on, I need a sip of water, y'all. I'm sorry. Hold on. Okay, my voice started cracking. I mean, I need a sip of water. All right. In general, the myrtle is symbolic of the pious because as the myrtle is evergreen, summer and winter are alike. So the saints never suffer dishonor, either in this world or in the world to come. In another way, Esther resembled the myrtle, which, in spite of its pleasant scent, has a bitter taste. Esther was pleasant to the Hebrews, but bitterness itself to human and all who belong to him. The name Esther is equally significant. In Hebrew, it means she who conceals, a fitting name for the niece of Mordecai, the woman who well knew how to guard a secret and long hid her descent and faith from the king and the court. She herself had been kept concealed for years in the house of her uncle, withdrawn from the searching eyes of the king's spies. Above all, she was hidden light that suddenly shone upon Israel in his rayless darkness. In build, Esther was neither tall nor short. She was exactly of average height, another reason for calling her myrtle, a plant which likewise is neither large nor small. In point of fact, Esther was not a beauty in the real sense of the word. Hold on. In point of fact, Esther was not a beauty in the real sense of the word. The beholder was bewitched by her grace and her charm, that in spite of her somewhat sallow, myrtle like complexion, the beholder was bewitched by her grace and her charm, and that in spite of her somewhat sallow, myrtle-like complexion. More than this, her enchanting grace was not the grace of youth, for she was 75 years old when she came to court and captivated the hearts of all who saw her, from king to eunuch. This was in fulfillment of the prophecy which Yahuwah had made to Abraham when he was leaving the home of his father. Thou art leaving the house of thy father at the age of 75. As thou livest, the deliverer of thy children and Media will also be 75 years old. Ooh, and he never mentioned that she was going to be a woman. So we talk about, just to bring up the point back, Israel has had multiple deliverers or Messiah figures throughout its existence, right? Moses, which is one of the main ones we hear about, right? And the different ones, Nehemiah, Esther, clearly, right? Okay. Just so we all on the same page. Another historical event pointed forward to Esther's achievement. And remember, the deliverer that comes up in Israel always comes from the current generation that is living, right? That's what we've seen all the way through and through. Do we think it's going to be any different? Church teaches us that it's going to be different, but I don't think so, right? Okay. I think the deliverer for this current generation will come from this current generation, right? Another historical event pointed forward to Esther's achievement when the Jews, after the destruction of Jerusalem, broke out into the wail, "We are orphans and fatherless." Yahuwah said, "And very soon the Redeemer, whom I shall send unto you in Media, shall also be an orphan, fatherless, and motherless." Esther, right? Looks. Because they experience the same thing that that generation is being delivered from, right? Yahuwah does it like that all the time. Like, we're not familiar with how he operates, we completely miss that. Ahasuerus put Esther between two groups of beauties, Median beauties to her right and Persian beauties to the left of her. Yet Esther's comeliness outshone them all. Not even Joseph could vie with this Hebrew queen in grace. Grace was suspended above him, but Esther was fairly laden down with it. Whoever saw her pronounced her the ideal of beauty of his nation. The general exclamation was, "This one is worthy of being queen." In vain, Ahasuerus sought a wife for 4 years. In vain, fathers had spent time and money bringing their daughters to him in the hope that one or the other would appeal to his fancy. None among the maidens, none among the women pleased Ahasuerus, but scarcely had he set his eyes upon Esther when he thrilled. Hold on. But scarcely had he set eyes upon Esther when he thrilled with the feeling that he had at last found what he had long yearned for. All these years, the portrait of Vashti had hung in his chamber. He had not forgotten his rejected queen. But once he beheld Esther, Vashti's picture was replaced by hers. Maiden grace and womanly charm were in her united. The change in her worldly position wrought no change in Esther's ways and manners. As she retained her beauty until old age, so the queen remained as pure in mind and soul as ever the simple maiden had been. All the other women who entered the gates of the royal palace made exaggerated demands. Esther's demeanor continued modest and unassuming. The others insisted that the seven girl pages Okay. The others insisted that the seven girl pages assigned to them should have certain peculiar qualities, as that they should not differ each from her mistress in complexion and height. Esther uttered no such wish whatsoever, but her unpretending ways were far from pleasing to Haggai, chief of the eunuchs of the harem. He feared lest the king discover that Esther did nothing to preserve her beauty and would be put to blame for it upon, and the blame would be put upon him, an accusation that might bring him to the gallows. To avoid such a fate, he loaded Esther down with resplendent jewels, distinguishing her beyond all the other women gathered in the palace, as Joseph, by means of costly gifts lavished upon him, had singled out her ancestor Benjamin from among his brethren. Haggai paid particular attention to what Esther ate, for he brought her dishes from the royal table, which, however, she refused obstinately to touch. Only such things passed her lips as were permitted to the Hebrews. She lived entirely on vegetable food, as Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah had aforetimes done in the court of Nebuchadnezzar. The forbidden tidbits she passed over to the non-Hebrew servants. Her personal attendants were seven Hebrew maidens, as consistently pious as herself, whose devotion to the ritual law Esther could depend upon. Otherwise, Esther was cut off from all intercourse with Hebrews, and she was in danger of forgetting when the Sabbath came around. She therefore adopted the device of giving her seven attendants with peculiar names to keep her in mind of the passage of time. Oh, that was smart. Look, hold on. The first one was called Hulta, which means workday, and she was in attendance upon Esther on Sundays. On Mondays, she was served by Rakita to remind her of Rekia, the firmament, which was created on the second day of the world. Tuesday's maid was called Genuta, garden, the third day of creation having produced the world of plants. On Wednesday, she was reminded by Nohorita's name, the luminous, that it was the day on which Yahuwah made the great luminaries to share the light in the sky. Okay, put it here. Just take it. Take this. Replenish your cup yourself, child. To share, hold on. She was reminded by Nehorta's name, the luminous, that it was the day on which Yahuwah had made the great luminaries to shed their light in the sky. On Thursday, by Rushita, movement, for on the fifth day, the first animated beings were created. On Friday, the day on which beasts came into being, by her Fita, little ewe lamb. And on the Sabbath, her bidding was done by Rigoita, rest. Thus she was sure to remember the Sabbath day week after week. Mordecai's daily visits to the gate of the palace had a similar purpose. Thus Esther was afforded the opportunity of obtaining instruction from him on all ritual doubts that might assail her. This lively interest displayed by Mordecai And Esther's physical and spiritual welfare is not wholly attributed to an uncle's and guardian's solicitude in behalf of an orphan niece. A much closer bond, the bond between husband and wife, united them. For when Esther had grown to maidenhood, Mordecai had espoused her. Naturally, Esther would have been ready to defend her conjugal honor with her life. She would gladly have suffered. Hold on, y'all. I'm going to just keep reading. I don't know about this part. So apparently, when I was reading through, I'm going to just keep reading. I don't know. I must have not heard this part while I was multitasking, listening to it. Hold on. I'm going to just keep reading, right? I'm going to need to check into this. Naturally, Esther would have been ready to defend her conjugal honor with her life. She would gladly have suffered death at the hands of the king's bailiff rather than yield herself to a man, not her husband. Luckily, there was no need for this sacrifice, for her marriage with Ahasuerus was but a feigned union. Yahuwah sent down a female spirit in the guise of Esther to take her place with the king. Esther herself never lived with Ahasuerus as his wife. So he had a spirit wife, right? Everybody should know what that is. Apparently, Succubus was coming to visit him. The incubus and the succubus spirits, them jokers is real too, just in case y'all didn't know. At the advice of her uncle, Esther kept her descent and her faith a secret. Mordecai's injunction was dictated by several motives. First of all, it was his modesty that suggested secrecy. He thought the king, if he heard from Esther that she had been raised by him, might offer to install him in some high office. In point of fact, Mordecai was right in his conjecture. Ahasuerus had pledged himself to make lords, princes, and kings of Esther's friends and kinsfolks if she would but name them. Another reason for keeping Esther's Hebrews affiliation a secret was Mordecai's apprehension that the fate of Vashti overtake Esther too. If such were in store for her, he desired at least to guard against the Hebrews becoming her fellow sufferers. Besides, Mordecai knew only too well the inimical, I probably said that wrong, Inimical. Mordecai knew only too well the inimical feelings entertained by the heathen toward the Hebrews ever since their exile from the Holy Land. We've got a few more sentences, y'all, we'll be done. And he feared that the Hebrew haters, to gratify their hostility against the Hebrews, might bring about the ruin of Esther and her house. Mindful of the perils to which Esther was exposed, Mordecai allowed no day to pass without assuring himself of her well-being. His compensation therefore came from Yahuwah. When thou makest the well-being of a single soul, hold on. Okay, I just had to make sure this made sense. Okay. His compensation therefore came from Yahuwah. Thou makest the well-being of a single soul thy intimate concern. As thou livest, the well-being and good of thy whole nation Israel shall be entrusted to thee as thy task. And to reward him for his modesty, Yahuwah said, thou withdrawest thyself from greatness. As thou livest, I will honor thee more than all the men of the earth. Vain were the efforts made by Ahasuerus to draw her secret from Esther. He arranged great festivities for the purpose, but she guarded it well. She had an answer ready for his most insistent questions. I know neither my people nor my family, for I lost my parents in my earliest infancy. But as the king desired greatly to show himself gracious to the nation to which the queen belonged, he released all the peoples under his dominion from the payment of taxes and imposts. In this way, he thought her nation was bound to be benefited. How about we go ahead and let that be done today too, right? Release us from all the taxes declared by the king, right? Release all of Esther's descendants, all the descendants of Israel from taxes, right? We should tax free everything. Give us all our taxes we ever paid get into the system, get all back. Yeah, I like that. What y'all think about that? I like that. Look, I'm gonna read that again. But as the king desired greatly to show himself gracious to the nation to which the queen belonged, he released all the peoples under his dominion from the payment of taxes and imposts. In this way, he thought her nation was bound to be benefited. When the king saw that kindness and generosity left her untouched, he sought to wrest the secret from her by threats. Once, when she parried his inquiries in the customary way, saying, I am an orphan, and Yahuwah, the father of the fatherless, in his mercy has brought me up. He retorted, I shall gather virgins together the second time. His purpose was to provoke the jealousy of Esther, for a woman is jealous of nothing so much as a rival. When Mordecai noticed that women were being brought in to court anew, he was overcome with anxiety for his niece. Thinking that the fate of Vashti might have befallen her, he was impelled to make inquiries about her. As for Esther herself, she was but following the example of her race. She could keep silent in all modesty, as Rachel, the mother of Benjamin, had kept a modest silence when her father gave her sister Leah to Jacob for wife instead of herself, and as Saul the Benjamite was modestly reserved when questioned by his uncle. He told about the finding of his she-asses, but nothing about his elevation to the kingship. Rachel and Saul were recompensed for their self-abnegation by being given a descent like Esther. And that is where we will stop for today, beautiful people. And we'll pick up tomorrow with the conspiracy, right? Okay. So that was good. Mark my spot. Page 496. Okay, beautiful people. So that was, we read 2 Kings, chapter 6, 7, and 8, and we read Legends of the Jews, pages 493 to page 496. It is Wednesday, beautiful people, April the 21st, 2021, day 133 of year 3 of reading through the books of the law and the prophets, and of the 3-year consecutive day count, day 802. We have been present 802 days. That's without the Sabbath days counted and the Sabbath feast days counted. Why? Because we are commanded to rest. So we are obedient in every way that we possibly can be, and we rest on those days, right? In every way we can find to keep Yahuwah's command in our life this day, that we do, right? So we rest. So, but the days that we have been present, like the days that the moon is present in the sky, is 802 days, right? Okay, y'all. So let's go ahead and pull up the blessing, which is found in Numbers chapter 6, verses 22 to 27. Remember, the first 21 verses is the Nazarite vow. Okay, got it up. And Yahuwah spake unto Moses, saying, Speak unto Aaron and unto his sons, saying, On this wise ye shall bless the children of Israel, saying unto them, May Yahuwah bless us and keep us. May Yahuwah make his face shine upon us and be gracious unto us. May Yahuwah lift up his countenance upon us and give us peace. And they shall put my name upon the children of Israel, and I will bless them. Whose name do we put on Yahuwah's people? Yahuwah's name. And who will bless us? Yahuwah will bless us. So all that we do in Yahuwah's name alone. All my prayers, when this really hit me down in my shanana, I adjusted my prayers. I said, Father, if I'm supposed to be talking to you, everything that I do will be geared and centered around you. I am going to do my prayers in nobody else's name but yours, right? And anybody else that has come before us, we are not to worship, nor are we to do our prayers in their name, no matter what anybody has said. Yahuwah is the authority. We follow what he says. Anybody else say something else, they suspect right off top to me, right? Yahuwah said, in my name. You shall put my name, Yahuwah's name, the creator of heaven and earth, right? The creator of heaven and earth. The God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, the God that Elijah and Elisha worshiped the prophets Isaiah, Jeremiah, the God that they talked about, him, his name. They never prayed in anybody else's name, nor did they put anybody else's name on their prayers when they were directing it to him. They talked directly to him in everything they did in the name of the Most Holy. And that is the example we are to follow. When we began doing that, we began to see some strange happenings going on in our life, right? I promise y'all. And I can say it in it. Let me tell you, people that like to try and go toe to toe with me on that, I don't go toe to toe with them, because I'm telling them from my personal experience. And anybody that you would say, listen, come test me, I would tell anybody, don't try to argue the principle me until you have tested it. When you test that principle, you're going to realize, wait a minute, what is happening here, right? I tell you, when I began to line my life, mind you, I was raised in the church, right? So I was used to doing my prayers in another person's name and praising another person, right? Although my heart, I was thinking as I was taught it was him. But as I began to read, Yahuwah taught me a little bit better, right? Now it's still people, they get their prayers answered and stuff, but it's they doing it in ignorance, right? And Yahuwah understands that, but he's opening our eyes and getting our attention. Wake up, people, wake up. The time of captivity is over, and it's time to you return to your first love. The one who has really been blessing you with this is me, right? Look, when I realized that, I'm like, listen, I ain't arguing with nary another person about this. You don't believe it? Okay, that's your choice. But what you believe is not going to affect what I have experienced, because my experience tells me that this is true. So my whole life, and I'm glad I found this out while my children were still the last foe, right? When we had transitioned out the church, like they know no other name besides Yahuwah, right? And blessed be the Most Holy for that. Number two, older ones, kind of trying to reteach them and transition. It's like, okay, well, shoot, Mom, that worked. Like, look, I'm telling you, you better try. You better get to know him for yourself. And like somebody said, like, can you pray for me? Listen, your prayers can be just as strong as mine, right? He hears you like he hears me. So every time they come, I read it. I say, you learn how to talk to him yourself. He's there. He hears you, right? So all that we do just like the prophets whom Yahuwah talks about, the Isaiah, the Ezekiels, the Amos, the Joels, all of them, right? If we want to see the results that they got, we need to do what they did. And they only talk to Yah. They only worship Yah. All that they did in the name of Yahuwah, right? It would behoove us to follow them same examples if we have been void of the power that our previous ancestors have had, right? That's where it lies. That's where it lies. In knowledge and in practice, right? My people perish for the lack of knowledge. When you don't have the knowledge of the truth, you do things ignorantly and you hit and miss, and your prayers are hit and miss, right? I'm telling you, y'all ain't got to believe me. Just go test the principles. Go test what the book you carry around says, right? And as you begin to do that, Yahuwah begins to open your eyes to the things that's always been there, but it has been hidden for a period of time. But when he begins to show you, what does that mean? That means it's time for your awakening, right? Wake up, people. Wake up. All right, y'all. Oh, you're welcome, Chrissy. She said, thank you for sharing this information. We should pray in Yahuwah's name. Thank you for sharing it because this is new to me. Yo, sis, practice it. Come back and tell us what you see Yahuwah do. Tell us how fast your prayers are being answered now, right? Because when you line up with what Yahuwah says, like even some of the things where we may pray amiss, you will see Yahuwah guiding you to what you really should be praying about, right? And it's like, without fail, like, oh, that happened. Oh my gosh, what? Wait a minute. Like, it gets better day by day. It gets better day by day. And you can say, and when people, look, I'm just telling you, there's a whole nother boldness that takes over, right? A whole nother boldness that takes over. When you know beyond a shadow of a doubt who you belong to, and that who you belong to hears you and answers you, and you can see the tangible proof happening in this realm where we live and we move and we have our being, right? Yo, I'm just telling you. Don't knock it before you try it. That's all I gotta say, y'all. All right, y'all, we gotta get out of here. I got work to do. All right, I love y'all. I remember to share this stuff about the land on Manhattan Beach and stuff. That was the only thing I said I was gonna share, right? Okay, yeah. I'll share some stuff. It's a couple other things I've seen too. So I share that. So remember, keep your eyes open, right? As you see Yahuwah's people coming up, some of the things that are being returned to them, all this stuff, y'all, all this stuff. Look, so just pay attention and just, I don't know, bless Yah dearly. Thank him. All that we have is because of him. Hi, Vicky. All right, y'all. That's it. We out of here. We got to go. We are over our time for today. I will see y'all back here tomorrow morning, bright and early, 7:15 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. All right, y'all. Yes, Trina. Trina said we try everything else, so why not try Yahuwah? Amen. Yes. Look, I be so excited about this. When people look, I'm like, so tell me what happened. Like when we was first, look, I know I just said I was about to hang up, like not hang up, but cut this off. Look, hold on. So with me and my sister Leisha, right? Look, you gotta have study buddy, right? My sister, it's like my study buddy. Well, my mama too, right? But it's like me and my sister, we try stuff first before we bring it to my mama because we know my mama gonna be like, hey, wait, y'all better make sure that's right, you know. So it's kind of like now it's like me and my sister. And one of my sisters and my mom. So it was like, look, so this, right? Oh, snap. Did you see this? We'd be so excited. So it was like, when we had first started trying, doing the prayers, like, look, well, ain't nothing to it but to do it. So we're just going to try. We're going to test this principle. Because up until then, all our prayers, we've been doing in JC name because that's all we knew. You know, but we had this thing about like, wait a minute, sometimes y'all, and I know y'all all probably experience this, even when you had dreams, you ever have a dream that maybe you're being attacked by an otherworldly entity or a demon or something, and you go to call on the name JC, and it's like your name is, like when you go to say the name, it's like it's slurred, it's like something is holding him up, like, yeah. It's like you're trying to say in JC name, you know, trying to bind up the demon and stuff. Oh yeah, you must have blinked. You missed the blessing. We did the blessing, y'all. Look, so you were trying to say it, but it's like what you're trying to say, like to fight off the demon entity in your dream or whatever, is always like your mouth is being slurred. I'm not sure if that's happened to you, but I know at least a lot of people in my family, when we talk about this, we talk about that. We weren't really quite sure why that was happening. Like sometime it would happen, like we would say in JC name, you know, we doing all this, and with all our knowing and understanding at the time, it's always like whatever we were fighting off, it would always keep attacking us. We may say in JC name. Now, when we saying it, we thinking of Yah, like Yah help us, but we didn't even know the name to call, right? If you get in trouble out here in the streets and you trying to call your mom and daddy, you know your mom and daddy, but you ain't got the right number. And somebody trying to, I don't know. Well, what is your name? My name is this. Well, what is your parents' name? You know, this is what I know. Their name is mom and daddy. Well, how many other people name is mom and daddy out here? Can you be a little more specific? So it's times like that where I think us knowing Yahuwah's name is really pertinent. Now let me also say this. I'm gonna go back to my dream. Now something I realized, right? Now that I know the name, right? Here's something I noticed. You know how and this is from experience. You know how when it's like when you're doing your prayers, like growing up in the church, it's like in JC name, I pray this and that. But as I began to learn just Yah alone, remember I say it's like another level of boldness that comes in, another level of authority that you just like now understand. So here's an example. So think about military. Anybody that's military, right? So you have say the captain of the ship or anywhere, anybody in charge, your boss, supervisor, boss or whatever, you got managers, supervisors under them, right? So say they have the managers meeting or the executive meeting with the heads or whatever, right? And the command come down from the person in charge, the boss, whoever, right? And so he tells all the managers under him, this, I need this, done, this, done, right? So they go, and I think they do it well, right? The supervisors, they take that authority that they have been given from the boss over them, and they go and they speak to their people with that authority. You never, at least from what I've personally experienced, excuse me, I've never, when I was working for people, when I was in the military, I've never heard my superiors say, y'all gonna go do this because my boss told me to tell y'all to do this. No, they tell you this is what we're going to do. This is how we're going to get it done. They operate in that authority without having to constantly tell you and hype up, or well, the boss put me in charge. And you see that happening with people who are immature that really don't understand their authority, right? Because those who understand their authority, they can operate in that authority without constantly telling you that they got permission to, right? And that was a whole nother thing that blew my mind. So even in my prayers a lot of time, or if I, and even recently, when I knew a otherworldly entity showed up, let me tell you something. I'm gonna tell you, first of all, I don't do in JC name. I ain't been doing that in years right now. And let me tell you something. As I was transitioning, and I would have some supernatural things happen to me, and I go immediate prayer stuff, I almost revert back like, oh, and Jay, like you get scared and like the church stuff take over. It's like, and Jay, no, Father, I did that wrong. Wait a minute. Father, in your name, you have those moments where things catch you off guard, and you're first until you do it enough and you walk in it, you almost revert back to what you came out of until you catch yourself. Wait a minute, hold on, wait. Right? So it's a learning process and a learning curve as you push all that garbage out, right? So you're going to go through that as you're transitioning to worshiping Yahuwah alone and doing your prayers only in his name. You're gonna have that happening, right? And that's a normal part of growth as those things begin to fall off, right? So the other day, and I don't know what happened. Here's what I want to say. I want to say one of my children watched something in my house that they should not have been watching, right? Now, I know that because anytime somebody watches something, it's almost like, and those who've experienced this and understand, but those who haven't, you're probably like, yeah, I don't know what you're talking about. Okay. So it almost seems like there's some kind of spiritual door that has been opened, and it comes in here and it disrupts the atmosphere of the home. But what always happens is it seemed like they're not the ones being attacked. It's like they come directly for me. And when I felt it, I didn't go in Yah's name. I said, whoever you are trespassing. Get out of here, right? And it immediately, the atmosphere changed in my house. And I knew it was something, probably my 17-year-old. And I went and talked to him. I was like, look, I don't know what you watched or what you almost watched or whatever, but whatever it was, something entered into our home. I said, but whatever it is, you better fix it, right? No, well, I had already fixed it. It's a different type of authority that takes over, especially when you notice what happened. Like you don't, and the whole point of me saying this is you walk in that authority without having to constantly say in such and such name and such name. You move like you know who you are, and whatever you up against, they know who you are, and they immediately obey your voice, right? And that's the whole point about knowing who we are and the power that Yahuwah gives us, right? And when we know who we are and we know whose we are, we can walk unafraid. We can walk unbothered, right? Because we have the authority here on our level to take care of whatever it is that needs to happen. And anything that comes to our attention or our level, understand and know that Yahuwah has given you the authority. You just need to understand it and know it and take care of it immediately, right? And so that's what I've noticed. Even with that, if I had to deal with something like that, or some kind of attack that I can perceive and see, like, because I'll see things happen, like a lot of times I'll have a dream. Look, I'll have a dream about it happening. And when I have it, a lot of times it'll happen. And as long as I've been understanding it and watching it and timing it, it always happens within 2 weeks, right? It's either the next day within 2 weeks, as over the last couple of years where I've been paying attention, it always happens to me within that time span while I understand it, right? But I always see it happening before it happens in some way, even if I don't realize it until after it happened. Wait a minute, you did show me that. I just didn't catch it, right? So the whole point is, when we talk to Yah, we understand who Yah is, and all our prayers and everything that we do should be done for him and him alone. All that we do, we are to do in his name and him alone. And you never seen any of the prophets, well, in Moses' name, we do this. Although Moses came and he brought us the words of Yah, the point of doing that was to turn the people back to Yah, not to bring the people to you, right? But we see that example happen throughout scriptures when we get into the New Testament, right? The person who comes to bring the word of Yah, the people then begin to worship, right? And it become a trend, and the whole church world, most of Yahuwah's people is following this. And when you go to bring them back to the truth, no, you are not to worship the messenger. You are to worship the message giver, right? The creator, the authority of the message, the one who gave the message, right? They just came to tell you, worship Yah, return to Yah, not return to me. Who are you? Who is flesh and blood, right? We are nothing but the creation of the great creator, right? We are to worship him and him alone. All that we ask, our prayers, we end them in Yahuwah's name. When you understand that, like y'all, when y'all really get that, you can just pray, right? And I've tested it. And and what I understand up until today, it really comes down to understanding who Yahuwah is and the authority he has given to us. Because even some of my prayers, I don't end it in anybody's name. When I say anybody, if I did end it in Yahuwah's name, it would be in Yahuwah's name. But I can just ask or say a prayer and say, and let it be done, right? I can end it like that and I'll see it done, right? That's the type of authority that we are to have as children of the King of the universe, right? I'm just telling y'all, just go test it. Like, if you haven't tested up until this day, if you've never known about it, never understood it, I'm just telling you, don't knock it before you try it. Test it. And don't test it with the intention of trying to prove me or anybody else wrong. Test it because you really want to know the truth, right? Because we're going to need that truth as we live our daily lives, right? And even in our business dealings and stuff, we can cry out to the Most Holy because it's him who gives inside information. People who think they try and get the upper hand on us, Yahuwah will give us, Yahuwah will slide inside our DM and be like, hey, sis, look, watch for this. Look, let me tell you something. Let me share a funny story, which I think I may have shared this with you before, right? Let me tell you, Yah is so cool. He has a good sense of humor, right? I'm gonna say I may have shared this a couple years ago, right? Listen. So even in your own home, when your family is plotting on you, not plotting like I'm gonna kill you because I hate you. No, even in fun, joking gesture and stuff. I'm gonna tell you something that happened a couple years. Well, not, it's been more than a couple years because Elijah grown out the house with his own family now with 3 children. But when Elijah, I want to say Elijah was my oldest son. I want to say he was about 15. He was about 15. Okay, so this was when we only had Elijah and Jeremiah, right? So bathroom time has always been my time. Bath, candles, this is my woosah time, right? This is my me time. I'm gonna go in here and I'm gonna be lost. Y'all can come looking for me if after 3 hours I ain't out of here, right? So this is one of the days. James had taken the boys out, Elijah and Jeremiah, and they was gone. I had cooked dinner. House was clean. I'm like, boom, they probably still be gone for a little while. I'm going to go ahead and soak in the tub, right? But I didn't know that they I forget what they wanted. But anyway, they were coming home earlier, right? But he didn't call me and let me know that. So they were coming to the house, and apparently they think I take too long in the bathroom, right? And I'm in the bathroom all the time. So and I'm telling you this ahead of time because I'm gonna show you what happened. So apparently, okay, so after I had got done with all this, I'm like, okay, boom, I'm gonna go ahead in here and take my bath, sit and soak or whatever. And as I was going to the bath, I had already put my little stuff out, got all this. And so I went to the kitchen and got me something to drink. And I was like, okay, I'm gonna go ahead in there. But as I was walking to my bathroom, I heard Yah say to me, wait a minute, don't go take your bath yet. Just wait a minute. He said, just like a friend or somebody was standing right next to me, because that's how I hear Yah. I hear him like somebody is like you can hear me. It's like I hear him with an audible voice, but it's like I hear it here, but I hear it loud on the inside of me, like radiated out. I don't know if that makes sense, but that's how I've always heard him speak to me. That's how I know his voice, right? So he said, wait a minute, don't go in there yet. Just hold on a minute. I said, okay, because okay, you my friend, I know, okay, whatever, maybe somebody, I don't know, maybe a phone call or something, because we had a house phone. We didn't have a cell phone because we was getting food about money, couldn't keep the bill on, so we had a house phone, landline, right? Figured somebody was gonna call, and I have long cord to reach to the bathroom. I said, okay, and I said, okay. So I just walked in our bedroom, right? So I had music playing already and everything. So I'm like, okay, well, I just wait a little bit. I don't know why, but as soon as I walked in the bathroom, into the bedroom, although the music was playing in the house, I heard the keys hit the door, right? So I heard the keys hit the door, and I didn't think that they would be coming back so soon, but clearly I hear the key hit the door. Nobody else has a key to my house except my husband and our son, right? So I come out the bedroom, not all the way out the bedroom, but I stick my head, because you could look at the apartment we had. You could stick your head out our bedroom door and look down the hall and see the front door. And so that's what I did. I stuck my head out, and the door opened. As the door opened, my husband had the key. It's funny. Elijah was standing in front of my husband. It was like Elijah had walked up to the door first, and my husband had came up behind him to unlock the door with the key. So that's how they were positioned. And Jeremiah, he was like on this side, but I couldn't see him. As they opened the door, I'm peeking around the corner, because I'm like, clearly, I wasn't scared of anything. I knew it had to be my husband, but I wasn't expecting him back so soon. So I peeked my head around the corner like this, and they're opening the door. It's so funny. They opened the door. It was like they was trying to open the door quietly, right? So I'm watching all this. I'm like, they put the key in there. They open the door, and they opened the door, and the door opens inward into the house, right? So they opened the door slowly, and as James was pushing the door like this, look. As James was pushing the door like this, mind you, I'm looking out the bedroom, from the side of the bedroom, looking like this. They pushing the door open slowly like this, looking in like this, and we all caught eye contact with each other. And it was like, James was like, oh, and I was like, oh, I told you. Apparently, they had a little wager going on between them. And here's what the wager was. They said, I bet you this, and they told me afterwards, because they was all ecstatic and laughing and stuff. It's actually like, oh, I told you. Here's what the bet was. They bet that when they walked in a house, I would be in the bathroom, right? Something so simple. And James was like, mad, because he's like, because you always in the bathroom. And they was giggling and laughing. And then when I realized what had happened, and then my son, well, not my son, but my husband was plotting. Y'all get what I'm saying? Like, they had a bet going on that I was going to be in the bathroom, right? And I'm just like, you know what, y'all? And I was still calling him God at the time, right? I said, you know what? Thank you. I said, now, he told me, I didn't know, he didn't necessarily tell me what y'all were going to be doing, but he told me not to go into the bathroom. And James like, he was doing like this, like, yeah, right. See, but my husband come to know that I hear from somebody, and he learned how to take that wisdom, and it has saved our butt many a day in our business dealings, right? Look, so even like that, y'all, is so cool that he like I said, he'll slide into your DM and give you that inside information, just like what we read today, where the king was like, well, who is a traitor among us? And one of the guys said, listen, they got the prophet Elijah there, and Yahuwah gives him direct information. He tells some secret things that are only heard in the king's chambers. They said, look, go get him, right? Same thing. You will literally see Yahuwah operating like that for you. And once you really begin to know him and spend time with him and talk to him, and he really becomes a friend, right? It's stuff like that, things like that. We can go about your day and just, I'm in constant communication with y'all, like all the time. At least I try to be, right? You know, so it baffles me sometimes when, because I just think it's a normal thing now, because I guess because I'm in a habit of doing it. I've been doing it for a while, right? So I guess everybody has to start somewhere, you know. They can happen, that same type of, and even more so can happen, you know, for people who really get in there, be like, all right, Father, clearly we know there's something out there that has created all this stuff. This just didn't happen by, you know, like, it just, all this stuff just didn't appear. Somebody, excuse me, is the great designer of all this that we see and how our bodies operate, even down to a woman and her menstrual cycle. Like we don't have, there's certain things we have control over, but there are some things that we absolutely have no control over. Like women, for instance, when you get a cycle, you can calculate and you can track it, but you cannot control when it comes. Now you can stop it up by going to get birth control and you can stop the flow. But if you're operating in your natural mode, that's something that your body does when it's ready to do its monthly cleansing cycle, right? And we see a lot of things happen that way. So that was it. Yeah, even in the, you're right, Aliyah, even in the simple things, he talks to us just like that, right? And it's so cool. That's why it gets better and better day by day. So, you know, I like I said, y'all, just go try it. Just try it, right? Okay. So, but that's it. I know I was gonna say something earlier about when me and my sister was we was trying out, we was testing the testing the principle. Okay, we're gonna do it. And but she probably at work. I will see if I could bring her on so she could share with y'all. But like my sister, she had something happen. I guess it's been almost a year, probably about 2 years now. We was first trying it. She had something happen to her, right? I'm gonna try and share it a little bit. Leisha, remember that time you saw the fire in your room? Look, so we been having some crazy stuff happen to us. Okay, I'll just kind of sum it up real quick. So I think she might be at work. So, but anyway, she had one of these same type of things happen with her. Some demonic entity had showed up and she could see it with her eyes in her room, right? And she was about to say, well, she wasn't, because we had purposely made this pact where we're gonna try this. Like, you always gotta have like a study buddy, somebody that you kind of operate with, just in case you get into something that's not quite right. It's like, look, okay, we're gonna try this, because you know you coming out to church and there you scared about everything. Okay, we're gonna try this. Okay, so this is what I'm gonna try. Okay, just in case something happened, you know what I did. So we need to know how to fix it, just in case you go get help, right? So I'm gonna try this, right? So you always gotta have somebody kind of watch your back like that. So me and my sister are like that to one another. Okay, this is what we're about to try. Boom, boom, boom. Okay, if something go wrong, okay, this is what we think we need to do. Look here, look. Here's what's crazy. When we was first trying it, my default was, okay, if this don't work and we really get in trouble, we just gonna say, we're gonna bind it all up in JC name, right? And I know that's crazy, but you gotta take steps to come out of bondage just to test stuff. So that's what we knew growing up, and it kind of semi-worked for us. It was kind of hit and miss. It didn't always work. But just in case it didn't work, we were just gonna kind of revert real quick just to see if we could fix the problem. But blessed be the Most Holy, we didn't have to do that, right? Every time we said Yahuwah's name, Yahuwah showed up for us, right? Leisha, you remember? Look, Leisha said it wasn't my default. I was a little bit more scared than Leisha. Leisha like come from the streets, you know. But no, but seriously though, Leisha like, yeah, Leisha said she was always skeptical on JC name, right? Okay, so. You here, okay, you in the word, you probably listening. So she had happened, demonic spirit showed up in the room. She actually saw it, right? And what she said, and we were still kind of using Yahusha, but we were using Yahusha, and it was like you using Yahusha, but we're still talking about Yahuwah, not Yahusha as in JC or some, but that's another name, is another name for Yahuwah himself. So when we say Yahusha, we're still talking about Yahuwah. It's just the suffix added. The suffix added on his name that has the power of the saving grace, right? Right. So Yahusha is I am, or no, Yahusha is Yah is my deliverer, right? But it's still Yah. That's the name, right? Okay. So she said she didn't even say in Yahusha's name. She saw it, and she said, and it was like in the middle of the night, and she sleep in the dark, right? Dark room. She said Yahusha, right? And she said when she said it, kind of like came out of her. But what she saw was this figure like blow back, right? It like, you know how you see an explosion and a person fly back. That's what she saw, and she saw flames outside her house, and she literally thought something was on fire. And she said she saw it explode. Yahoo says, right? She saw it explode, and she thought fire. So she hopped up. Remember, because she got small children, girls, and she hopped up and she runs to the window to snatch it down, and it was completely calm. But while she was there in her room, what she saw what was happening in the spirit. She saw flames all around her home. right? Like literal flames to where she thought something was really on fire because she just saw this explosion when Yahusha came out of her. Like when she right here, she got up and checked, right? There was no, and all natural here, it looked fine, but she saw what actually took place in the spiritual realm when she called on Yahuwah. She saw that. She knew she was calling on Yahuwah. She just called on a different attribute of his name. But instead of saying, Yah save me, she just condensed it and said, Yahusha, which she's still in all natural aspects. She said, if you would decipher what she said, Yah save me. But instead of saying, Yah save me, like we would be in English, she just said, Yahusha. Right? And she saw that spirit, she saw an explosion, saw that spirit blow back and fire consume her house, right? All around where she hopped up and thought there were flames outside for real, right? I'm like, girl, look, it was at that point where we knew we was on to something, right? Man, I got so many stories that's been happening since we went to Yah alone. It's like, Father, ooh, when we were gonna get to test this against our captors, right? We're like, Elijah, the God of Elijah is back. Yo, look, so I be trying to tell y'all, look, don't knock it till you try it. We need everybody get on board. And when we know who we all calling on, who we talking to, let's all be like, let there be multiple Jezebels that want to take our head. But in our generation, let all of us stand there and say, what Jezebel, right to her face, right? Okay, y'all, this is going on long enough. We all almost at 2 hours. I gotta go. I got stuff I gotta get done today, y'all. But okay, y'all, that's it. I really enjoyed talking to y'all about this. I'm just like, so excited. I'm just like, please, Father, wake them up. We need help here. We need help with these fire prayers that we dropping where we at, right? The world needs to be reintroduced to the God of Elijah, right? Oh, so excited, y'all. All right, y'all. I love y'all. I see y'all back here tomorrow morning, 7:15 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. I love y'all. Peace.